an election broadcast on behalf of the Conservative Party.
And there goes Freddie Errol, off on a journey into industry. He's Economic Secretary to the Treasury, and I asked him to undertake this journey to find out what industry is doing and what industry is thinking. And at the same time, I've asked John Hare, the Minister of Agriculture, he's a practical farmer himself, to have a look at farming, and we'll come to his report presently. Now, the next 5 years are going to be an exciting and I think a very thrilling time. And how are we going to measure up to that challenge? Well, to start with, let's join Freddie Errol as he goes north on a journey into industry.
Talking of industry makes me think of the electrical engineering works near Manchester, where I served my apprenticeship before the war. So I thought I'd go there first on this tour and see what's happening now. I worked in various shops and then in the research department. In those days, a man called Dr. Dannett was also working in one of the laboratories. Now he's the managing director, so he's the one to show us round. Tell me, are you doing much export business just now?
I should say that 40% of the material in this shop will go overseas.
How about this unit? Is this one going overseas?
This particular one, no. As a matter of fact, this is the spindle for one of the turbines at the Berkeley Nuclear Power Station.
Is it ready yet?
It's practically ready for assembly and then for test, and so it will be shipped.
So that means that the new station will be working within 2 years?
Oh yes, certainly.
The electrical industry is growing all the time, helping modernize British railways, for example, providing £220 million worth of exports last year alone. That's a car. At least it was, and it employed 180 people. Now it's a cigarette factory with jobs for over 1,200. That old mill's being converted in the same way. And new industries are coming into Lancashire too. They're making television tubes here. Let's go inside.
Do you mind if I interrupt you for a moment? That looks pretty skilled work you're doing.
Oh, you soon get the hang of it.
Tell me, how long have you been doing it for?
The whole place has only been open 4 years. I've been here too and learned to do quite a few of the jobs.
What did you do before you came here?
I was in a weaving mill for 19 years. Quite a few of us came here from the mill.
Oh, that's why you're so neat with your fingers.
It helps.
And tell me now about the future.
We seem to be taking on new staff pretty regularly, and if you look outside, there's a new extension going up which will provide lots more jobs. It looks all right.
It certainly does look all right. New industries, new buildings.
The future's good. The government scheme for helping the cotton industry is going well, and new industries will provide new jobs. I'm on my way to Scotland. Lots going on there. Let's have a look at the new road bridge being built across the Forth.
It'll be the biggest in Britain, and one of the 6 largest in the world. Ready for traffic in 1963. This is the new town of Cumbernauld, and one of the smart new factories there, making office machinery. Quite a change from Scotland's traditional industries, shipbuilding, heavy engineering, and steel making. This steelworks is going to have a big new strip mill here at Ravenscraig, with an output of 500,000 tons a year. More new industries will come to Scotland when they can get steel strip and sheet on the spot.
The new strip mills in South Wales helped me to persuade the steel company to have their new factory at Swansea.
That's Joe Edwards, the managing director. Quite a tough nut to deal with.
You know perfectly well We didn't want to come, but you persuaded us.
True.
Come on into the drawing office and see how we're getting on.
Mr. Errol. How's the building work getting on?
Fine, we're just on schedule with the factory itself.
The builders seem to be working pretty fast.
Just as fast as the drawings come off the board, and faster sometimes.
That's good news. As it's a government building, I'm glad it'll be ready on time.
Well, you supply the building, we shall supply the management, the know-how and the machinery. And South Wales, the people.
And how many people are you going to take on down here?
Well, next year we shall employ 1,000, the following year 2,000, and following that building up the labour force to between 3,000 and 4,000 work people.
And what are you going to make here?
Refrigerators, and after that other appliances.
And what about your volume of production?
Well, we figure that this project will be the biggest of its kind in Europe when it's finished.
But refrigerators are only part of your story.
That is true. As you know, we are the biggest motor body manufacturers in Europe, and we supply all the leading British makes in this country from our Swindon and Cowley factories.
Doing a wonderful job, the British car industry. They're free to get on with it, too. Exporting more than ever before. That means a lot to me as a Treasury Minister. They're helping to solve our balance of payments. And making tractors, too. 60% go overseas, and the rest to help make British farms the most highly mechanized in the world. And by the way, Britain is the world's largest exporter of farm machinery. The techniques of industrial research are helping Britain's farmers, too. Looking ahead, everywhere in Britain today, Britain's latest, the hovercraft. And we're going to keep ahead. We Conservatives can count on British industry today and in the future.
From Errol's report, I want to pick out the story of the Press Steel Company. In Swansea, it's going to employ 4,000 work people on the biggest project of its kind in Europe. And this seems to me a perfect illustration of how industry and the government can work together in partnership. And as a consequence, the employment prospects in Swansea have been transformed. You see, the company didn't want to go to South Wales in the first place, but Errol persuaded them to go to Swansea, and we helped them, just as we persuaded and helped firms to go to Dundee and Greenock and other needy areas as well. And we intend to ask Parliament for wider powers to deal with these problems. The bill's already drafted. If you vote for a Conservative and Unionist government on October the 8th, this will be the first major bill of the new session. On the other hand, if you vote Labour, you're voting for more nationalisation. And they're hoping that you will vote blindfold, for not one word of their television programmes has been devoted to this, far the most important proposal that they make. And if you vote Labour, you will be giving them open authority to nationalise steel and road haulage, and also a blank cheque to take into public ownership any other industry or firm which after examination they choose to describe as failing the nation. Plus, of course, their mysterious plans for controlling large public companies. Industry then is doing well, but it is threatened by the socialists. And now let's turn from factory to farm. For very many of you, the land is your livelihood. But for more still, it is your larder. And it's in a shop that we find Mr. Hare, the Minister of Agriculture, starting his report.
Well, I'm in a food shop now, which, as all of us know, is where our agricultural produce, most of it, generally lands up in. Well, now, nobody knows better than the shopkeeper how careful the housewife is about what she buys, and how particular she is about how the food is presented and packed. But clever salesmanship is no disguise for good quality. So efficient retailing is dependent on the good quality of the produce that comes from our countryside.
This year, the dry summer put the harvest forward by a month, and a jolly good crop it's been. As you can see, much of the harvesting was done by combines, one of the machines that help us so much in farming these days. This country uses more farm machinery per acre than any other in the world, In the past, a big crop meant a glut and a slump in prices. If the weather's bad, he may have no crop to market. A farmer may tie up thousands of pounds for which he doesn't expect any return for 8 or 9 months. And then, hail, floods, or drought, and a disastrous end to the work of half a year. If the weather is good, things could be almost as bad. A glut, and the farmer can't get a price for his crop. You've got to give the farmer more security than that. But you've got to do even more than that. You have to protect farmers against the sharp price changes, and at the same time, you've got to enable the housewife, as she can at home today, to buy food as cheaply as anywhere else in the world, and have freedom of choice too. This is what we've achieved by our system of guaranteed prices. Let's go back to the beginning of the story, to the time when the fields were being ploughed, ready for winter and spring sowing. We were able to help the farmer as early as this by grants towards the cost of ploughing old grassland, and we were able to follow this up with subsidies for the fertilizers. There are grants too for draining waterlogged land, for making roads, and for laying on electricity. All combine to allow the farmer to concentrate on his main target, getting the most out of the land. Putting the most back into it too. Feeding the soil and liming acid soil are essential to the farming cycle. And again, there are grants to help with the cost. But what about the small farmer? The man who farms 20 to 100 acres. This year, I'm happy to say, I've been able to introduce special new legislation for the small farmer. And I went this summer to visit one on his farm. Well, how's the summer been treating you? How's the harvest been going?
I'm afraid mine is not too good this year on account of so much dry weather. But the oats are pretty good. Sugar beet, I think they suffered quite a bit from the dry weather. And the barleys are not very heavy. But how's your crops looking?
Well, it's the same story. The winter corn's good, but anything which went in late, I don't think it's going to yield very well.
No, I don't think they will.
I see you've got television.
Yes, we have the television.
When did you get the electric here?
Last November.
Have you got pipe water?
Yes, we have pipe water.
When did that come?
We had that about 18 months ago.
Oh, well, you're fairly well set up.
Yes, yes.
Well, what acreage are you farming?
About 40 acres.
40 acres. Did you then qualify under the small farmer scheme?
Oh, yes, I think it'll be a godsend to me because there's so much I wanted to do that I shall be able to do now with the help of the small farmer scheme. Would you care to come and have a look at some of them? Pigs and poultry.
Oh, pigs.
These are some of my breeding stock.
They look very well.
I've got 14 breeding sows, but I don't know what the future's going to be after reading in the paper about all this Danish bacon coming into the country.
Well, you mustn't believe everything you read in the paper. The pig producer's going to be all right because his guarantees protect him.
Yes, but can the guaranteed price be reduced?
No. You see, I did a very unusual thing last July. I said that there would be no reduction in pig prices at the next annual price review. So the worst thing that could happen is that the price stays as it is, and the best is that it might go up. I'll tell you which. We in Britain still have the best livestock in the world. Our bulls are exported to the biggest rearing countries of the world. In fact, we intend to increase beef cattle herds in this country by assisting the farmer in every way we can. Milk production, of course, fluctuates with the season of the year, but nevertheless, we have sufficient margin to enable the marketing of a steady 25 million pints a day all the year round. With new electrical methods, fewer men can cope with bigger herds. More efficiency means cheaper milk and better prices for the producer. Because in the final result, it's the housewife's choice that counts. She's the person we've got to please. She demands the highest quality from shopkeeper, he in turn relies for half the food we eat in Britain on the British farmer. We've seen new methods, new chemicals, new machinery, all combining to produce more and better food from the land. Now, we Conservatives wish to ensure that farmers can adopt the most up-to-date methods possible and achieve the high standards for which they've always striven.
I didn't call this program Factory and Farm just because it's a pleasant title. There was a better reason than that. You remember the morning papers? Daily Telegraph, worthless total drops below 2%. News Chronicle, 22,000 fewer out of work. Financial Times, biggest September fall since the war. Now this is real news about prosperity, just as the communique from Washington was real news about peace. Oh, but there's one paper I almost forgot, the socialist paper, the Daily Herald. Actually, I had some difficulty in finding their news report about the splendid September figures, but here it is. I hope you can see it. It's about the size of a paper bus ticket. But of course, they're trying to make the worst of a good job, for they know that what Mr. Macmillan has called the double of stable prices and full employment is now finally, firmly secure. In pre-war years, we had a steady and often a falling price level, but it was accompanied by the evil of heavy unemployment. Since the war, there's been full employment at all times, except for the period of the fuel crisis in 1947. But it was accompanied for far too long by the evil of a sharply rising price level. And that brings me naturally to Mr. Gateskill, Mr. Rising Price himself. You say, Mr. Gateskill, that our estimates of the cost of your program are too high. Very well. Why not give us your own estimate? Once you were Chancellor of the Exchequer, in the year when prices and taxes went up at record speed, you must have made a calculation of the cost, and the people have a right to know what it is. But I think, Mr. Gateskill, that you will talk about everything else under the sun between now and October the 8th, but you will not tell the people of this country how much your program would cost. And that is why posters sum up the position. Life is better with the Conservatives. Don't let Labour ruin it. Politicians can make speeches and politicians can make plans. They can offer you promises and pledges and sometimes perhaps even bribes, but they don't create wealth. You do that. It's from farm and factory and foundry that the money for pensions, education and health comes. Let's leave industry and the land alone, secure and free, so that they may create a wider prosperity and a new strength. And in that prosperity and in that strength, we promise that you will share, all of you.
Of October, you are going to be asked to vote, to decide the future for your country, for your family, and for yourself. Life is better with the Conservatives. Life has been better with the Conservatives, much better. Better for everyone, and it can be better still. Don't let the Labour Party spoil it. On the 8th of October, you are going to be asked to vote. It is your duty to your country, to your family, and to yourself that you should vote. Vote Conservative, and be sure of an even better life.
That was an election broadcast on behalf of the Conservative Party.